everybody and welcome back to my channel. So today I am so excited because I am finally getting into a project which I have been wanting to do for so long now. I am actually going to be making my very own artwork, which I have created, into a sculpture. Now this is the art that I'm actually going to be recreating today. It is my Matcha Tea Dragon. Now this sort of creature, just for a bit of backstory, this creature was created for my Dragons Inspired by Tea Varieties series, and it is a dragon based on matcha tea. Now if you want to learn a little bit more about that dragon, I will definitely have a link in the description to the previous video of that. And yeah, so let's just get right into the creation. So I started off with this sort of wood panel thing. As you can see, it's one of those plaque things that you usually use to paint and decorate and write stuff on. But I'm actually using it today for the base of this sculpture, and for the actual figure of this sculpture, I am using this sort of wire to start off the shape. Now this wire isn't any special wire, it's basically just a random wire that I got from the hardware section at Kmart. I love Kmart. But yeah, after that I just added a bit of tin foil to the outside to try and get a little bit more flesh on the bones and just to build up the shape a little bit more, because I don't want to make this thing solidly clay. I kind of want a foundation which I am going to build off of. To stay true to the original design, I am making it a sort of windy, swirly, snake kind of dragon shape, and I really had a lot of fun trying to experiment with ways to get the body to sort of curve around in a way that looked natural. Now finally I am getting into sculpting with this clay. Now a problem with this clay is that it is very hard when you start off. But with this polymer clay you can actually soften it with a little bit of water, so it's pretty convenient. Now with sculpting, I actually started off with the little details which I'm going to add to this creature later, and this is because I have sculpted them around a piece of wire and I'm going to bake these ones first. Now this is because I wanted to be able to use this to sort of stab into the clay of the body of the dragon, and that way it has a really sort of strong connection and it won't break off, if that makes sense. Now that those are baking in the oven, I am starting on the dragon's body. Now I had to use a lot of clay for this part because, well, it's the main part of the sculpture, and without one of those pasta roller things, I had to pretty much just soften it all and sort of squish it out with my hands, which took a very long time. But you know what, it was worth it because I really do like the end results, and yeah. So now that I have a solid base sort of defined, I'm actually going in with a little bit of detail here and there to sort of define the characteristics of this dragon. Now I started off with adding sort of thicker parts here and there where I wanted the dragon's sort of fur. I'm not sure if it's fur, but like, you know, bits. And after that I actually added on the face of the dragon. Now to flesh out rough shapes of the face, I used little pieces of tin foil here and there to sort of bulk out the dragon's sort of snout and also its sort of eyebrows. And yeah, I'm just slowly adding more details here and there until I get to something that looks like my reference. Now this dragon has sort of long, wide scales along its belly, and I really wanted to sort of capture that in this sculpture because it is a pretty known feature of this dragon. When you look at it you can tell. And yeah, to do that I actually rolled out some very long pieces of just like thin sort of snake shaped clay, and then I cut that up and flattened it. And yeah, I'm just using this along the snake's belly area and its underside. And yeah, After that, I sort of went over the edges with my Stanley knife, and this was just to cut off the edges and make it all look sort of neat and even. And yeah, I'm actually pretty happy with the results of that. I feel like it does look like the reference quite a bit. After this, it was time to flesh out the arms and the hands of this dragon. As you can see, I have a long piece of wire sort of going through, and that's just the sort of skeleton part of its hands. And yeah, I actually did one finger on each hand, and after that I actually decided to add in the other fingers with those pieces that I had pre-baked. And yeah, that just gives me a little bit of strength to the hands, and it just makes me feel like the fingers are less likely to break off if they didn't have that wire sort of baked through them. I also did this for the horns on the dragon and also its ears, and yeah, it's actually a pretty good technique, I think. So anyways, now is the time to sort of give this dragon a little bit of environment to stay in. Now the base on this, which is wood, I definitely was tempted to just paint it a certain color and leave it at that, but I felt like since I'm going all in on this, I might as well spend the time and make this sort of environment for this dragon really sort of immersive and make it look really cool. And I'm actually so glad I did that because it turned out very, very cool. Now some parts of this sculpture I had to actually glue together, mainly because I wasn't able to get the wire in as I could with other features, and just having clay would have made it very easy to break. So I actually used hot glue in some areas, including the leaves on its horns, as well as some parts of the background / environment. Now is the time to paint this sculpture, and I started in with the base mainly because I wanted to get that area done first. And yeah, I just went in with a sort of dark desaturated sort of green color because I wanted it to look like the bottom of a forest floor. And yeah, I just went in with a sort of base color of a really dark sort of dirty green color, and after that I added a few lighter colors to that green paint, and I went over with just a few little textures here and there to make it look a bit more natural. Other than that, I also painted the rocks and the sticks just to give them a little bit more color and make them stand out, and yeah, I'm actually pretty happy with it. Now painting the actual dragon is where it starts to really come to life, because you're adding colors and shading and stuff to this, and yeah, different contrasting colors here and there, and it just sort of makes it look more like a dragon instead of a sculpture of a dragon. And yeah, this was probably the most fun part of this because I don't know, I just love painting things, and 3D things, that's way cooler. So I used a few different greens to paint this dragon. I did a sort of lighter yellowy warmer green for the main body, and then I did some really dark greens for the claws of the dragon. After this I actually did a slightly more bluey green for the sort of underside of the dragon, and this color is a little bit more bluer than in the original artwork. I'm not the best at mixing paint, but I think I did pretty well considering. Other than that, there are a few other colors. I did a few sort of darker green shadows around the eyes of the dragon, and in some areas here and there where I just wanted to sort of add a bit of shading and emphasize some details. I also added a few highlights here and there on the belly part. I actually added a very slightly lighter and a slightly more yellowy sort of highlights on each of the scales on the belly, as well as a little bit of highlights in the middle of its belly, just to sort of give it a little bit of glimmer and to make it look almost glossy without actually being glossy. And yeah, other than that, I went in with a very, very nice sort of pearl white color for the sort of furry, frilly parts of the dragon, the bits on top of its head and along its body and on its tail. I am so glad I did that because it just looks so nice and like it gives it almost a magical feel, and I love it so much. Now to finish off the piece, I wanted to sort of hint to the background of the original artwork, and I added a few little bamboo sort of sticks which I ended up gluing to the base. And I'm really happy I did that because that sort of background thing, I don't know, when I put them on there it just sort of brought it all together, and the way they're sort of sitting sort of draws your eyes up to the dragon, and it just looks very, very cool, and I am so glad I made this. So I have to say I did have a lot of fun making this, and I am very, very surprised because I didn't expect this to take as long as it did. That's probably why this video is a bit later than usual. This dragon actually took me about 18 hours to create. Now that doesn't seem like much when you look at the dragon, but that's a lot of work, and I'm actually really glad that I did it though, because I love the results and I think it just looks so cool. So here's the final results, and I love it so much. I think it just looks really cool, and I'm so glad that I took the time to make this instead of rushing to get the video out quicker, because he just looks so majestic and I love him so much. This is actually my favorite tea dragon that I have made, which is funny because it's the first tea dragon that I've made. What does that say about my art? Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this. Please check out some other videos. I'm going to have them come up on the screen. And yeah, have a lovely day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye everyone!